Japan, a land of mystery, tradition, and unshakable honor. A place where emperors claimed descent from gods and warriors lived and died by the sword. But behind its beauty lies a story of war, faith, and transformation. Today, we journey deep into the real history of Japan, from its ancient origins to the rise of the samurai. In the dawn of a new age in 1700, this is not just the history of a country, it's the legend of a civilization that forged its soul through fire and steel. Long before samurai or emperors, Japan was a land of tribes. Archaeologists call them the Jomon people hunters, fishers, and gatherers who lived in harmony with the land for thousands of years. They built no kingdoms, fought no wars. Their legacy was one of peace, nature, and art. The world's oldest pottery was found here in their hands, made 14,000 years ago. But around 300 BCE, a new wave of people arrived, the Yayoi. They came from the Asian mainland, bringing new ideas like rice farming, metal tools, and organized society. The Yayoi changed everything. Villages grew into small states, and for the first time, Japan began to take shape as a nation. Out of these clans, one would rise above all others, the Yamato. By the 3rd century, the Yamato rulers had united much of the islands. They built the first imperial line, claiming divine descent from the sun goddess Amaterasu. That belief still echoes today in Japan's emperor, the oldest continuous monarchy on earth. With unity came culture. The Yamato court turned to its great neighbor, China, for inspiration. From China came writing, architecture, Buddhism, and the idea of a centralized government. Japan absorbed it all, but never lost its own spirit. By the 6th century, Buddhist monks crossed the sea, carrying sacred statues and golden scriptures. In Japan's temples, ancient beliefs and Buddhism began to blend, creating a unique faith that worshipped both gods of nature and the wisdom of the Buddha. Under the Nara period, Japan built its first great capital, a city modeled after China's Tem's dynasty capital. Temples rose, art flourished, and the emperor stood at the center of power. But beneath this beauty, politics began to rot. Aristocrats grew greedy, and the capital drowned in luxury. As the 8th century ended, Japan moved its heart to a new city, Heian-kyo, today known as Kyoto. And with this move began one of Japan's most beautiful and dangerous eras. The Heian period was Japan's golden age of art and refinement. Noble families wrote poetry, painted nature scenes, and perfected the beauty of simplicity. The world's first novel, Asterisk, The Tale of Genji Asterisk, was written by a woman, Murasaki Shikibu, during this time. But outside the elegant walls of Kyoto, power was slipping away. In the provinces, local clans were growing strong, and they had their own warriors. Men trained not in poetry, but in battle. They were the samurai. As the noble Fujiwara family indulged in luxury, these warriors protected the land and enforced order. Soon they realized they didn't need the court. They had swords, armies, and loyalty. 2 clans rose above all, the Taira and the Minamoto. Their rivalry would tear Japan apart. The Genpei War was more than a struggle for power. It was the birth of a new Japan. The Minamoto and Taira fought for control of the empire. Cities burned, families fell, and rivers turned red. In 1185, the Minamoto emerged, victorious. Their leader, Minamoto no Yoritomo, did something no one had dared before. He took power from the emperor himself. In 1192, Yoritomo was given the title of shogun, the supreme military ruler. And with that, a new government was born, the shogunate. From now on, the emperor would reign, but not rule. Japan had entered the age of the samurai. Under the Kamakura shogunate, Japan became a warrior nation. Samurai ruled through loyalty and strict discipline. Their code Bushido, the way of the warrior, became the soul of Japan. Honor, loyalty, and courage were sacred. A true samurai would rather die than face shame. If they failed, they performed seppuku, ritual suicide, to preserve their honor. In the 13th century, Japan faced its greatest test. From across the sea came a terrifying force, the Mongols. In 1274 and again in 1281, Kublai Khan's massive armies invaded Japan. Their weapons were advanced, their numbers overwhelming, And yet, both times, Japan was saved by nature. A powerful typhoon destroyed the invaders' ships. Japanese called it kamikaze, the divine wind, believing it was the gods themselves protecting their land. The invasions ended, but the cost of defense left Japan weakened. By the 14th century, the shogunate's power began to crumble. The age of peace was gone. After the fall of the Kamakura government, Japan fell into chaos. For 2 centuries, warlords fought endlessly for control. This was the Sengoku Jidai, the age of the warring states. Castles rose on mountains. Alliances were made and broken overnight. Every man with a sword dreamed of becoming shogun. But amid the chaos, 3 extraordinary men would rise, each destined to change Japan forever. First came Oda Nobunaga, a ruthless genius who dreamed of uniting Japan by force. He embraced new weapons guns brought by Portuguese traders and changed warfare forever. Nobunaga conquered half the country before being betrayed by his own general and forced to end his life. Then came Toyotomi Hideyoshi, a peasant who rose from nothing to become Japan's ruler. Through diplomacy and cunning, he finished what Nobunaga started, uniting Japan for the first time in centuries. But Hideyoshi's dream of invading China failed, and after his death, Japan once again stood on the edge of war. Finally, in 1600, came Tokugawa Ieyasu, patient, strategic, and merciless when needed. At the Battle of Sekigahara, Ieyasu crushed his rivals and became the undisputed ruler of Japan. In 1603, he was granted the title of shogun. The Tokugawa dynasty had begun, a line that would rule for the next 250 years. Under Tokugawa rule, Japan finally found peace. The samurai sheathed their swords. Castles stopped burning. For the first time in centuries, the land rested at sea. But to keep that peace, Ieyasu imposed strict control. Lords were required to spend every other year in the capital, Edo, a system designed to prevent rebellion. Foreigners were watched carefully. Soon Japan would seal itself from the world, entering a long era of isolation. Yet inside its walls, Japan's culture bloomed. Poets wrote haiku, artists painted delicate landscapes, and cities grew into vibrant centers of trade and entertainment. The sword was no longer just a weapon. It became a symbol of honor, beauty, and soul. By 1700, Japan stood calm after centuries of chaos. It had transformed from a land of myth and war into a nation of peace and order. But beneath that calm surface, the spirit of the samurai still burned, quietly shaping Japan's heart for centuries to come. This was Japan's journey, from ancient tribes to divine emperors, from chaos to unity, a story written in blood and blossoms. By 1700, Japan had forged its identity, a nation bound by honor, shaped by discipline, and protected by the divine wind of destiny. And though the world would not see its gates open again for centuries, the Japan that emerged, proud, artistic, and resilient, was already unlike any other civilization on Earth. This is the real history of Japan. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter in history. See you next time.